There's something coming in August that Scorpio won't be able to explain properly, not even to themselves. It's not about luck. It's not about waiting for a sign from the universe. It's about a person who will cross exactly the part of you that you protect the most, and will do so without forcing anything. You think you already know what it's like to wait for someone. You've waited before. You've been disappointed before. And perhaps that's why your first reaction is to doubt, to cross your arms, to protect your chest with that armor you've built so well that you don't even realize you're wearing it anymore. But this person who approaches doesn't ask permission the way the others did. They don't knock on the front door. They enter through the crack you forgot to close, that part of you that still believes, even after everything. There's a pattern in Scorpio that few can name. You observe before you act. You feel before you speak. And when someone truly matters, instead of opening up, you retreat, test, wait to see if the person will really stay after seeing what lies beneath the first layer. It's a silent dance between desire and distrust, between the will to be seen and the fear of being seen too much. August will set this dance in motion in a way you won't be able to ignore. It's not about luck. It's not about a pretty calendar coincidence. It's about a cycle that has been forming for months, silently, in the subtext of your choices, in the invitations you refused, in the messages you didn't answer, in the times you chose to be alone instead of taking a chance again. Each of these choices carved out a space, and that space, months later, is about to welcome someone. This person carries something that will pierce your defenses silently, not because they are perfect, not because they say the right things at the right time, but because they see what others never wanted to see in you. The intensity you learn to hide, the care you learn to disguise as indifference, the tenderness that dwells behind your longest silences. And when someone sees this without being scared, without running away, without trying to fix you, something inside Scorpio surrenders, even if their mouth still says everything is fine, that it's nothing serious. You've felt this before, in smaller versions. That moment when someone said a phrase and you spent days dwelling on it, trying to understand why it hurt or warmed you so much. That feeling of recognition that has no logical explanation, as if you already knew that energy from somewhere the mind can't reach, but the body remembers. It's this kind of recognition that's approaching now, only bigger, more direct, impossible to justify as coincidence. And perhaps the question you should be asking yourself isn't who this person is. Perhaps the right question is another, more uncomfortable, more honest one. What inside you still needs to be unearthed before they truly arrive? Because Scorpio never receives an important encounter as they are. They receive it after going through a small, silent death, an internal adjustment that no one sees happening, an old version of themselves that needs to be shed to make room for the next. And that's exactly what the last few days have been doing to you, without you quite realizing the exact name of this process. What if the discomfort you're feeling right now isn't fear, but rather your body warning you that something deep inside is about to stir? It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose. It's not a prediction manual or a list of generic advice. It's an invitation to do exactly what Scorpio already knows how to do better than any other sign. Descend, to go beyond the first layer, beyond the easy excuse, beyond the story you tell yourself to avoid feeling so much. It exists to help you understand the pattern that is repeating itself in your life before August arrives, and you react in the same way as always, out of fear, haste, and the desire for protection. You're at exactly the point where this reading makes sense. Still processing what you just heard, still with that question pulsing inside, still feeling that something bigger is trying to reveal itself. This is the right moment, not in 2 weeks when the discomfort has already cooled down and you've gone back to your usual autopilot mode. The link is in the first pinned comment. But be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. Now leave a comment below. When was the last time you felt that someone was about to change everything, even before that person actually appeared? There's one thing Scorpios do without realizing it, and almost no one can stand it until the end. Testing. Not out of malice, not as a game, for survival. You observe how the person reacts when you back off a little, when you stay silent longer than you should, when you don't respond immediately. You're gauging whether they'll leave or stay. And most of the time, they'll leave because few people understand that silence isn't rejection, it's protection. Imagine a dam holding back all the force of a river. It doesn't exist because it hates water. It exists because it knows the size of the current it carries within itself and fears what would happen if it all came rushing down at once. That's how Scorpio loves. With a dam built not against the other person, but against the fear of drowning in their own intensity. And every person who has ever tried to get too close too quickly has felt that wall, without understanding that there, behind the dam, lies an entire river waiting to be released at the right time, for the right person. The problem is that most people confuse reticence with coldness. They think Scorpios don't feel when in fact they feel too much, so much so that they had to learn early on to control the flow. Perhaps you learned this as a child, seeing what happens when someone gives everything at once and gets hurt because of it. And since then, a part of you has been watching every approach, calculating the risk before any surrender, as if loving were, above all, a calculation of safety. And this is where the first great misconception about yourself lies. You believe you are only protecting yourself, but in reality, every time the dam holds back the river, pressure accumulates. This doesn't disappear. It transforms. It becomes sharper intuition, heavier silence, a more penetrating gaze. It becomes the ability to see through lies before they are even spoken. This is the price and the gift of carrying so much water within a single body. But there's a limit to how long a dam can hold without breaking. And perhaps you've already felt this in small moments. A sudden urge to tell everything to someone you barely know. Tears that come without warning after months of control. A vulnerability that escapes before you can pull it back. These are the first signs of a crack. And cracks in Scorpio are not weakness. They are the beginning of a rebirth process that no one consciously chooses, but that everyone, sooner or later, goes through. And there's a huge difference between a crack that appears due to wear and tear and one that appears because someone finally applied the right pressure in the right place. The first leaves you exhausted without understanding why. The second, even though it hurts, carries a strange relief, as if a part of you had been waiting for exactly that for years. Perhaps you've already felt this near someone, a relief that didn't make rational sense, a desire to lower your guard without even knowing why. And it's precisely through one of these cracks that this person will enter. Not through the grand door, not with beautiful speeches. They will enter in a small, almost banal moment, a phrase said unintentionally, a way of being silent together that isn't uncomfortable, a patience you've never received from anyone before. And the most disturbing thing isn't their intensity, it's their calmness. Because Scorpio is used to attracting people who are frightened by depth, who retreat, who prefer to stay on the surface where it's easier. This person doesn't back down, and that will leave you in a state you can't quite name, a mixture of relief and panic. Relief because, finally, someone isn't running away. Panic because, if no one runs away, you'll have to decide if you're really going to let them see what's behind the dam. And that decision, more than any astrological prediction, is the real turning point of August. There's a common trap here, and it's worth paying attention to. When panic sets in, Scorpio's oldest instinct is to sabotage, to create any reason to push someone away, find a flaw, provoke an unnecessary fight, just to confirm the old hypothesis that nobody truly stays. Recognizing this instinct the moment it appears, without acting impulsively, can be the difference between repeating the same old ending and experiencing for the first time a different one. That moment when someone finally doesn't run away is also the moment when Scorpio's oldest fear resurfaces. What if, upon truly seeing me, that person also leaves? This is exactly the kind of pattern that the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose helps to dismantle. Not with ready-made formulas, but by showing you how Scorpio can transform depth into a bridge, not a wall. It's a resource designed for those tired of repeating the same cycle of approach and retreat. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. There's something curious about this type of encounter that's worth pausing and observing. It's almost never the first. Before it, there have usually been others, similar on the surface, different at their core. People who got close enough to ignite something but who disappeared at the first sign of depth. Each of these encounters left a mark, a new distrust, an extra layer of armor. And it's easy to think that this pattern will repeat itself forever, that every encounter ends the same way. But karmic patterns don't exist to repeat themselves eternally. They exist to be broken at the exact moment you finally understand the lesson that was hidden behind them. And perhaps the lesson this time isn't about the other person. Perhaps it's about stopping confusing intensity with danger and depth with a reason to escape. Looking back, you can see that each of those people who came into your life served a purpose, even if the pain of each departure didn't seem helpful at the time. One taught you what you can no longer tolerate. Another showed you the extent of your own capacity to love, even when that capacity wasn't reciprocated. And perhaps the function of all of them, unintentionally, was to prepare you to recognize this time who is truly worth letting in until the end. Before any important arrival, Scorpio goes through a small death. Not literal, but real enough to hurt. It's the version of you that needs to be let go of, the one who habitually distrusts everything, the one who prefers to end things before being abandoned, the one who trades vulnerability for control because it seems safer. This version has served you well until now. It has protected you from many things, but it has also prevented you from receiving what is now arriving. And it's curious how this process often happens without warning. A sudden weariness of keeping your guard up, a strange urge to stop pretending everything is all right, a feeling that some old part of you simply doesn't fit anymore. This discomfort you may have been feeling lately isn't a problem to solve. It's a warning. Something inside you already knows what's coming, even if your mind is still trying to deny it. And perhaps the most difficult part of this phase isn't grieving for the old version of yourself, but the emptiness that appears between one thing and another. The space where you are no longer who you were, but you're not quite sure who you're becoming. It's uncomfortable, almost unbearable at times, to be in this limbo without any hurry to resolve things. But it is precisely in this emptiness, without the usual ready-made answers, that the space needed to receive something new can finally open up in truth. This kind of silent death, the one that no one sees happening, is also the hardest part to go through alone, without any map, without any reference that truly speaks the language of Scorpio. That's exactly what the divine path that guides your zodiac sign towards a life of purpose was designed for, to accompany you on this inner journey, showing you how to transform the end of an old version of yourself into fuel for the next phase. Instead of simply feeling the pain without understanding why, this material tends to disappear from platforms without warning, so securing your copy now prevents you from losing this resource precisely when you need it most. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There's a kind of recognition that defies logic. You look at someone or hear the way they speak, or feel the silence they can sustain beside you, and something ancient awakens, as if a part of you already knew that energy from another time, another place, another life. The mind tries to explain it as a coincidence. The body already knows it isn't. This type of encounter carries karmic weight because it didn't come to fill any void. It came to finish something that was left unfinished, some lesson about trust, about surrender, about the courage to let someone see what's behind the dam without running away in the middle of the process. And it's precisely because it carries this weight that it frightens as much as it attracts, because it's not about fleeting passion. It's about settling accounts with a part of yourself that hadn't yet allowed itself to trust. And that's why this type of encounter is never comfortable at first. It confronts exactly what you most avoid looking at, your own difficulty in receiving care without suspecting the motive behind it. It's not uncommon that faced with so much calm coming from the other side, a part of you reacts almost with irritation, internally wondering what this person wants, what they gain from it, why they simply stay. And the answer, however simple it may seem, is usually too difficult for Scorpio to accept at first. They stay because they want to. In the end, it all comes down to a choice, small on the outside, enormous on the inside. Let it in or close it again. You've closed it before. You know exactly how to do it. A subtle distancing, a curt response, any excuse not to delve deeper. It works. It always has, but it also always left that empty taste, that question that keeps echoing weeks later. What if I had let it in? August isn't just bringing one person, it's bringing this choice face to face with no room for postponement. And perhaps the scariest thing isn't the risk of getting hurt again. It's the real possibility that this time it will work, that the dam will open and the river will finally find a safe place to flow without destroying anything in its path, only irrigating what has been dry for too long. No one can make this decision for you. Not that person, not the stars, not any pretty prediction about the month of August. What can be said for sure is this: the pattern only changes when someone consciously decides to act differently than last time. And you, more than any other sign, know exactly what needs to be done to protect your heart. The question that remains is whether, this time, you will use this knowledge to open up or to close yourself off once again. Reaching this point of choice and not knowing what to do with it is perhaps the most karmic moment of this entire cycle, stuck between the dam and the river, without the courage to decide for oneself. This is the kind of decision that the divine path that guides your zodiac sign towards a life of purpose helps you navigate with greater clarity, understanding what is an old fear repeating itself and what is, in fact, a real calling to a life more aligned with your deepest purpose. This content has limited availability and may be removed at any time. Deep down, Scorpio has always known that true love comes at a high price. It costs you your armor, it costs you control, it costs you the comfortable illusion that being alone is safer than surrendering yourself. But there's a silent beauty in that price, because only those who have crossed the darkness know how to recognize the light without being blinded by it. August isn't just a month on the calendar, it's a mirror, placed right in front of you, showing you how much you've already grown and how much more you're willing to grow. Maybe this person will stay, maybe they won't. No prediction can guarantee that. But what remains, in any case, is the certainty that you are no longer who you were before feeling this restlessness arrive. And this transformation, silent, profound, invisible to those looking from the outside, is, in the end, the true magic of being a Scorpio, transforming each encounter, each loss, each silence into another layer of yourself, stronger, more whole, more real. If that person stays, you will love them in a way that only someone who has crossed so much water can love, deeply, loyally, without compromise. If they don't stay, Something within you will have already changed because you will have allowed yourself, even if only for a moment, to exist without the dam you built. And that in itself is a silent victory that no one else will witness, but that you will carry with you, knowing deep down that this time you chose differently.